Hello everyone, I'm Lynn, and today I'm going to do a reading about a really interesting person from history named Imhotep. I hope I said that right. If not, drop a comment below and let me know the correct way to pronounce it. But nonetheless, I'm going to go forward with a question here. It says, "Hi Lynn, could you please do a reading on Imhotep, Imhotep. Imhotep from 2667 to 2600 BC was the architect of the first pyramid built at Squara. I think that's how you say it. His name means he who comes in peace. He was a commoner by birth, but somehow managed to become one of the most influential men in Egypt at the time. Building the first pyramid not only required architectural know-how from Imhotep, but also organization and logistics at the unprecedented scale. He was also a physician, astronomer, mathematician, advisor to King Dosier, and a high priest of sun god Ra at Heliothapus. And that's a tongue twister for me. Basically, a polymath or all-around genius. As a priest at the temple of Ptah, he even went by the name Son of Ptah. He wrote several treatises on medicine, one of which Edwin Smith Papyrus is thought to be a copy of. It describes 48 types of injuries and their treatment. He also wrote treatises on architecture and religion, which are referenced in the works of other writers but have not survived. So this person basically has the question, who was he? How did he attain this vast level of knowledge and insight into such diverse areas? And how long did he live? Did he achieve anything spectacular or noteworthy that we don't know about today? And before I get into it, please hit the like button. It really helps me out, helps me get noticed a little bit more. So to the reading itself, I wanted to share a little bit of history about this because people ask me questions all the time and they put stuff on the blog. And I realize I seemingly go in and I pick things out of order. And that's because when I see what topics are in there, I look at what's jumping out at me. What am I immediately, if I read the question, are things automatically coming through to me? And this person who, bless their heart, is a long-time commenter on the blog and supporter of the blog, they asked me this. And I really wanted to pull this into a question on it, a question-answer blog reading. And for whatever reason, I couldn't seem to connect. I couldn't have things come through. And so I just put it on the back burner. But I wanted to address it today and give it another go. And surprisingly, I was able to connect where I wasn't before. And things started to come through to me, and it just felt pretty natural. So I'm human like everybody else, and I do what I can, but I wanted to share that. I thought maybe you'd think it's interesting of my process or how I go about picking the topics that I pick. So, needless to say, when I focused on him, he was a truly remarkable man, and I see that he was a very quiet little boy. You just see him, he's by himself, and at first, I thought he was just introverted. I thought it was a personality thing, but then I realized part of what shaped his quiet personality was that he had some kind of a speech impediment and made him not very verbal. He wasn't what I would call a big verbal communicator, but on paper, he was brilliant. But he really didn't have that type of communication, and it kept him feeling more introverted when in social settings or around other people. And I hear that he had, in my clear audience, I guess what you would call it, a variation of Asperger's before people even knew what that was or had a label for that he had that. And he could see things in his 3D mind almost instantly and see how things worked. It was like in his mind, he had these pictures and he would see how things worked, how things fit together. And he just understood it. It was like things were just easy to him in that regard. He also feels like he had some kind of a divine influence that not only allowed him to see and understand how things worked mechanically, but physically, biologically, all those kind of things. He had a very strong sense of what they call, we have these different clairs about us, claircognizance, which is just this feeling of all-knowing. It was like he would look at something and he just knew how it worked. No one had to teach him. He did like knowledge, and he would grasp things and understand things, but at the same time, he had this gift of just knowing and understanding by looking at something how it all worked. This all-knowing would propel him in the directions that enabled him to envision a structure such as a pyramid and how to create, and this is important, the electrical powerhouse that utilizes a structure, because the pyramids, they weren't just decoration. People didn't go through all that work and all that trouble just to build something for decoration. They were fueling, they were energizing that area of the world. They were a powerhouse. I hear that he lived 5 decades. That's what I heard, because they want to know how old he was. So around 50 years, roughly, he lived. And I get that he added a lot of principles to modern geometry. We always hear about the Pythagorean theorem, but I got that he actually introduced those concepts way before Pythagoras ever presented and documented this type of geometry. And that's just one of the many, but that's the one that came through to me. It was almost like Imhotep was so advanced that he would have to simplify things, or a lot of his work, to explain it. So the true complexity of it would get lost and watered down as these versions were shared among other scholars. So you might have a brilliant person, but they were not even on the level that this man was. And so, you go decades or centuries and you get this watered down version, but it's so much more complex because he just could see it. He was brilliant. Truly very gifted, very special man. And that was all I have for this reading. I'd be curious your thoughts. What do you know? I had never heard of him, so I always love tapping into things that I have no preconceived notion on, and this was a great example of that. So thanks again for the question. I will leave you with that. Again, I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thank you. Bye.